What is up, Alpha family? I hope you guys have had a beautiful week. It's Sunday again. We film every Sunday now. That way, this goes out on Thursday. It gives us enough time to get everything broken down. But anyways, I want to welcome you guys in. Really appreciate you guys joining us one more time, and today we're gonna get started with a little bit of just multiple notes that I have in my notebook in my iPhone that I take. A lot of these are from a book, The Four Agreements, that I really enjoy. It's one of my favorite books. I highly recommend it. The first one is just how being impeccable with your words is something that is critical and it's really important. The way that you communicate with yourself is the most important thing. So self-talk, if you're shaming yourself, if you're talking yourself down, and if something happens and you're like, oh, I'm dumb, or I'm an idiot, or I'm stupid, then that automatically puts you at a lower frequency. Not only that, it prevents you from really achieving, clarity and being able to just do better things in what you're doing. So even if you do something bad in your life, always back it up with, okay, I learned from that, instead of, oh, that was dumb, or like anything like that, because you do not want to shame yourself for things like that, and you want to catch yourself doing it. Even to this day, I catch myself doing those type of things. And this even happens in sales a lot, when you messed up, or you might say something that you didn't mean to say, and just backing it up and paying attention to those type of things. Speaking with integrity, say only what you mean. And for me, that was very difficult at the beginning of business and sales, because, I like to have free will and speak my mind and be authentic, which, yes, that's important. But sometimes there are thoughts that are better being thoughts, and opposed to just saying everything that comes to your mind. And if it's not going to have any positive impact to our environment, then why would we even say it? Sometimes, and it still happens to this day. Well, I'll have a conversation about something, or about a situation, or maybe someone, and ideally I'll always have analyzed myself and be like, at the end of that conversation, being like, wait, was that something that made me better, or did it have any impact in my life? And this goes back to last week about being in the present moment and being intentional with your time, your energy, your words. This one's really important, because being impeccable with your words, whatever comes out of your mouth, the things that come out of your mouth, the words will become things. And you have to realistically do that, because, if you're somebody that is going to try something, and I correct people all the time, especially when they join my team, is like, oh, I'm gonna try this, or I'm gonna try that, or I'm gonna try to get 3 sales, or I'm gonna try to get an appointment today, or I'm gonna try to get my business going, or I'm gonna try this new opportunity, where the word try is really not powerful. And I eliminate that word from my vocabulary. We don't try to do anything. We do things, right? We're going to do things, because the moment that you say try, you give yourself an out, and you do not want to give yourself an out, at least if you want to be intentional, right? And that's what that phrase comes from. It's just being impeccable with your words and the words that you're using, especially when you go into leadership, building trust through transparent and positive communication. This has been challenging for my life. Whenever I speak to you guys, I speak to myself, is like being positive and creating positivity flow in the words that come out of your mouth. Sometimes, you look at things differently, or because you've already been through the things where people are learning, you look at them way different than somebody that's just initially learning those type of things will. And that doesn't mean that they're dumb for that. That doesn't mean they're just in the journey, in the journey of life. Nobody teaches how to live. We just learn through the experiences that we make every single day. And that's why it is important to create intention behind that and have purpose behind our day and what we're doing. Because if there isn't any, then we're going to find ourselves lost consistently. And that goes to you guys, if you have an opportunity or a job or something that really has no purpose, there's no drive, there's not really anything that you're getting from that other than just being there and living your day to day, and maybe just living to go out on a weekend or hang out with friends on a weekend or whatever, then you need to start asking yourself tougher questions to get to like really the point, and all the way to the back where you ask so many questions that you're like, fuck, like what am I doing here? Because realistically we only have one life, and we do not want to live that life unintentional with no purpose and no drive, because we're not going to achieve anything. You have to think about things. You're in this physical world for a reason, and that reason is to create an impact, whether that's in your small little group, or there's that big group, whether that's with your family, whether that's with just yourself. There's something that has to be done, and the way that you will achieve that is by just moving in that direction and finding that purpose and finding that intention. I feel like, for example, my journey throughout my life and where I'm at today here having this conversation with you guys had been created in the past through the amount of experiences that have happened, and every opportunity, every experience, every relationship, all of those things allowed me to reflect on, okay, this happened and the reason why this happened, it took me here, and then from there I learned this. And even joining the military, for example, when I went back, started joining the military, ideally, you do it for school, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to go to school, so this is going to be a way for me to pay for my school. I have no support. I have nobody giving me money to go to school. At that time of my life, 2022, for me, the only way was going through school, right? And hearing that from everybody around me, that was the belief. We have limiting beliefs in our lives, so that was my limiting belief at the beginning. It's like school is the only way. So initially, I make the decision, I go and I join the military, okay? But the things that I got out of there is what built me into the discipline that I have today, into the momentum that I have today, into the resilience that I have today as a business and as a sales rep, because all of that journey prepared me for sales, in many freaking ways, shapes, and forms. It prepared me in sales, because it's like, if I did that in the boot camp, which in my opinion wasn't the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, but it was difficult to an extent, right? Coming into sales, and when you're getting rejected, and when you're getting no's, and when you're getting, and everything's not going your way, including business, right? And when things are not going your way, you're just building the backbone and that resilience where like you can pick yourself up and continue going and continue achieving, because you've already done it. But it all goes back with the way that you talk yourself, right? The way that you talk to yourself. Like I told you guys last week, it's one of these things where like things are not going your way. You just know that they will work out. They will work out. Like no matter how difficult things get, it doesn't matter how bad you are into credit card debt. It doesn't matter how bad your credit score is. It doesn't matter how bad your situation is right now. It doesn't matter how bad your job is right now. It doesn't matter how bad your relationship is right now. It doesn't matter how bad is your job right now. Like it doesn't matter. They will work out. And if you live in that mentality of like everything will get better no matter what I'm going through right now, then things will get better. But if you live in that mentality where you victimize yourself and you're like, like this happened because of that and this and that other thing, and my parents and my siblings, and like I just have no support and I don't have zero support system over here, then you're never going to get anywhere, and you're not going to achieve anything. Like that's somebody that, coming from my background is like, it got to a point where like I didn't have support. The only type of support that I had was God and myself. And finding a way to find that drive that you need is what you need. And I feel like going back into my past and like trying to discover myself and uncovering the layers of my past has been something important for me to become the person that I am today and will continue to become. And the reason why this has happened is because of all of that history. And I can go back to those lessons, and my perspective throughout the lessons were always like, this is just temporary. Even living in an uncomfortable environment, maybe where you feel like you're not wanted is like, okay, for me, my mentality was always, this is temporary, this is temporary. Even going through like military, this is just temporary. Like I know that I'm gonna get through this, right? And it could be a year, it could be a couple months, it could be a couple weeks, but I know that I will get through it. As long as God gives me the opportunity to live, operate, and go out there and just live my life and build and create, right? Then I have everything within, and I have everything here right now, and that's all I can ask for in order for my situation to improve and get better, right? So if I was laying down in a hospital bed and in the hospital, obviously that would be totally different, right? There's not much I can do. Things are outside my control. But as long as I'm doing the things that are inside my control, I will make things happen, right? Second thing is, don't take anything personally. And this is really hard. And I think like this might be the biggest one where like a lot of people have difficulty overcoming. And even me to this day, we have such a strong ego as humans, and we have such a strong mentality, but not taking things personally, and if somebody doesn't reply to you, don't take it personally. If things don't go the way that you want them to go, don't take things personally. If somebody gives you feedback, don't take things personally. Don't get defensive. If somebody doesn't like you, don't take things personally. It's just that simple. Don't take things personally. It doesn't matter. Like if you go out there and you go to the counter and you're gonna pay for something and they're mean to you, don't take them personally. Like it's okay, they might be having a difficult day. You never know what's going on in people's lives. Don't take it personally, because when you start taking it personally, you just continue to hold yourself back. There's tension, there's a little bit of toxic. So just learn to let things go as quickly as possible. And that comes with like relationships in the past, where like people come into my life and you do a lot for them and you continue to work for people, and they don't see what you do on your back end as a leader, and that's okay. Like they will never see those type of things. You're the only one that understands those, but like they'll talk maybe crap about you, or maybe they'll say something and you're like, okay, cool, but not taking it personally, let it go, like forgiving them, because you're that human. You understand, like, hey, like this is just human psychology. Like they're looking for an excuse, and the excuse might be you. So not taking even those things personally when somebody talks bad about you, it's like, it's okay. Like there might be a reason, and learn how to forgive it, let it go, and just continue moving, because that's what's really going to help you go and grow and achieve way more, right? So people will not always look at you the way that you want them to look at you. They're never going to think the way that you want them to think, and they have their own lives. So ideally, if they're focused on you, sometimes that's a good thing. Then that means that their life is boring, that they don't have a lot of things going on for them, so they're focused on what you're doing, and that's actually a good thing, right? Because that means that you're achieving something. So focus on controlling your own actions, not others' opinions, and staying focused on goals despite criticism and negative feedback, And that's something very difficult in business, and it's also very difficult in sales and in life in general, right? When somebody comes into this opportunity sometimes, and, people might be like, oh, why don't you get a real job? Why don't you just do this instead, or that? Like, and then you're going to get a lot of comments, and it's like, if you don't know yourself, if you don't understand yourself, then you're going to take those things and you're going to take them personally, and then you're going to start holding yourself back. But when you know yourself, you just know where you're going. So a lot of the things that I have sometimes with conversations with loved ones around me is like, I know where I'm going. Like, it doesn't matter what happens right now, because I know where I'm going, and I know that the goal is there. It's just a matter of time for me to get there. I just need to learn how to operate at that frequency. It doesn't matter what happens. Like, ideally, the only thing that matters is if I die tomorrow, then that's different. Like, but ideally, whatever happens, and I'm here standing and I wake up in the morning, like everything is within, and I know that. So doesn't matter what happens, like I will continue to achieve, and I will continue to grow, and I will continue to move. And I know where I'm going. That's why I'm not scared. I'm not scared of maybe Ed's person or this happening or that happening. Like, it doesn't matter. So that's the mentality behind this this topic, right, of not taking things personally, is because I know where I'm going. I'm not gonna take it personally. Like if you call me names, I'm not gonna take it personally. There's no reason to fight. If I fight after you call me names and I get angry and mad, then I don't know myself, right? But if I know myself, I'm gonna learn how to walk away from that. And that's a true man in all reality, like it's not walking away to conflict. It's just that it's not even worth it. It's not worth my time. I'm not gonna give it time and attention. I'm just gonna move on. Okay, third thing, don't make any assumptions. And this happens a lot. And I notice like when people come into alpha, and one of the biggest things that as a business and sales that I've learned is like people love to make assumptions on everything. And hey, that assumption's always going to be to their benefit. And they always going to make assumptions. And that's how the human mind just starts creating like, oh, I assume this or I assume that. And no, let's just ask questions. Let's get crystal clear. Like if I don't understand something, let's just ask questions. Do not make assumptions. And this includes with like maybe not getting a text message, I stay super busy and I get a lot of text messages throughout the day. Sometimes I'm like 60 text messages, like different threads. And, I can't reply to everybody. Sometimes a little conversation with a friend that I might be having where like, hey, how are you? Hey, I'm good. I might not reply to that conversation. It might take me a week to reply to that conversation. But it's like not making the assumption that I'm ignoring them is really like what I'm mostly like, I hope that they don't assume that I'm ignoring, because I'm not. Like I understand. It's just that I'm taking care of all of these other things that happen. And then install doesn't go through, or the material doesn't get there on time. We have to call the customer, and then we have to reach out to them. That way we can reschedule it, and then hopefully they don't get mad. And if they get mad, I handle that conversation. And then we have another problem over here. And then that conversation ends up going all the way to the bottom. So not making assumptions that, the other individual is ignoring you, or not making assumptions that this happened because of that, and not making assumptions that somebody's doing you wrong on something. Don't make those assumptions. Don't attract those type of things in your life. Just ask clear questions and create clarity. That's what's really important. Sometimes we create problems out of just assuming, and think about it thoroughly. Like how many times have you sat down and assumed things, and then you create a problem? The human mind it loves to create problems, right? So understanding that, ask the right questions to seek the clarity, communicating clearly to prevent confusion and misinterpretation. Those are really important, because assumptions will lead to misunderstandings and conflict every single time. And really sit there and think about it, like a time where you were assuming things, and after you had a conversation maybe with your parents, maybe with your girlfriend, maybe with your boyfriend, maybe with your siblings, you actually found out that it was totally different, and you created a whole different story in your head about that situation, and you created a little bit of conflict and maybe tension, right, on that. And that's what starts happening. So it's always communication will always cure those type of things. And that's what's really important here. And that's why I practice every single day. And even to this day, I'm not communicating clearly with everybody around me. And that's going back to, hey, be impeccable with your words. You still have to communicate. Yes, you have to communicate clearly, be impeccable with your words, but you can't really sit there and say everything that you're just assuming. Like you have to ask the right questions, and it's always finding that clarity. And that even includes in like marriage, like your spouse might assume that you're doing something, and like, but it's because the way that you're communicating with them that might not be clear to them, and that's why that conflict ends up happening. Okay. So not making any assumptions. The other thing that I'm going to talk about is always doing your best in everything that you do. And everything that you do, no matter where you're at. And if we really want to think about this for a moment, okay, so you're here today, you're in the present, you're listening to this maybe right now, and you're listening to this, you're watching me, you're seeing this, but you go back to your responsibilities, your things that you're doing, and you're halfway doing them. you only get one life, you only get one day. Tomorrow's not promised. Why would we halfway do the things that we're doing every single day? It doesn't make any sense. Like, are we storing energy for when we're 40, when we're 50? No, like there's no point, because who knows if you're gonna get that. Try, and we're not, don't try, but do everything in your power to do your best. And this includes where, like, me and my team sometimes will go to play soccer here in Charlotte, and I'm always on my best, like, and I take things like really, like, it's really important to me, and there's a lot of intensity to me, because that's the way that I play, is like, that's the way that I move, like, that's how I do one thing, you do everything. Like, how I play soccer, I do business, I do sales, I take it serious, and there's people that you might go play and they be like, like joking and playing and goofing off. That's not me. Like, if we go play, dude, I'm competitive. Like, I'm here to win. Like, what's the whole point of playing this game? Or it might be a friendly if I'm not going to win. Like, there's no point. Like, we're in this life to win. Like, we have to win. And that's the way that I move, and that's the way that I operate. So, like, we have to start asking ourselves, where in my life am I goofing off? Like, because you're gonna find parts in your life where you need to do better, and there's gonna be times where you could have done better. And sometimes we make those excuses of like, oh, well, I didn't do good because of this, or because that happened and this held me back, or I was sick. There's been so many times in my past where I didn't play soccer up to like a high level that I wanted to, and the excuse was always like, oh, well, I was sick, I don't feel good, or whatever it is. We're always gonna find a way to justify our reasoning, but we know that we can do our best at everything we can do, and that includes the opportunity, that includes business, that includes our relationship, that includes living in the present moment right now, doing our best, because this is where we're at right now. Why would we want to give today any less than that, then less than 100%? And that's what's really important here. And these are things that I've truly been practicing, especially living in the present and like giving the present my everything, because you start seeing better, you start clearing your mind a lot better, you start living with more intention, you start seeing the opportunities that the universe, the world, and God is giving you. You start seeing the lessons, you start seeing everything a lot quicker, because you're not in your head too much, and you're living, you're finally living, you're finally alive. And it's coming to that waking moment that you start understanding, okay, and now you can implement, like, let me do my best on this one thing that I'm doing, and then let me do my best on this other thing. And if I'm gonna go to sleep, I'm gonna do the best at it. If I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna do the best at it. If I'm gonna go run, I'm gonna do the best at it. Why would I halfway myself? No, like, do the best at everything that you can do. Effort, not perfection, is the goal. Okay, so nothing is perfect. The only thing perfect for me now, it's the present moment that we have today, because the amount of atoms and the amount of things that had to happen for this moment to be created. But overall, effort, not perfection, is the goal, because the effort that you're putting in is what will start realistically creating the perfection, the present, where you want to live and operate. So, striving to be impeccable with your word, not taking action, not taking things personally, and avoiding assumptions, right? So these are 3 different things that I spoke about that are really important, but this goes all with always doing your best at everything that you do. And that even includes with speaking, like when you're having a conversation with somebody, do your best at that conversation. Do your best at the word choice that you're using. And that's something that I've honestly self-analyzed myself a lot on sometimes, where like I'm like, wait, should I use this word or that word? And you only get better at it because you start thinking a little bit quicker, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to use perfect instead of perfection, or I'm going to start using this word instead of that word. And you start finding yourself in that, but it's always falls back to doing your best at everything that you do. And maybe having a conversation with your friend is where you start practicing of like your word choice, and maybe this is not the best word choice that I need to use. Maybe instead of using best, I need to do great. Or maybe if I do, I'm using trying, I need to use doing, right? And I analyze a lot, and when I talk to somebody on the phone and I'm hearing a lot of weak words, I start paying attention, and I'm like, okay, this person's maybe a little bit more, they lack confidence, maybe they are unsure about where they're going, maybe they are lost in their life. And there's a lot of things that go into it that you can start analyzing, but it's because I'm doing the best at that conversation. If I go sit down with a homeowner tomorrow, I'm gonna live in the present, I'm gonna be there with them, and I'm gonna do my best at that conversation that we're having, at that presentation that I'm having. Now I might get a notification and I might get lost, and then I'm like, wait, Brian, you're doing the complete opposite that you were gonna say you were gonna do. So then I bring myself forward and I'm like, okay, great. Now, what people, when they first start self-analyzing themselves, what they start doing is that they start shaming themselves. And that's why whenever I talk to my guys all the time, I'm like, do not shame yourself. Like, you know, you're working on your goal. You know, you're working on ads. You know that you're not perfect. So do not shame yourself. You know, you're working on it. It's only going to get better. Okay. So those are those, so prevent self-judgment, like I said, regret and burnout by focusing on the process. Always focus on the process. And I tell my team all the time, look, like things are not always, or will not always go the way that you plan them to go or intend them to go. That's just not gonna happen, is the way that life works. Like if everything would go the way that we want it to go since the moment that we're 8 and we start really thinking about where we wanna be in the future, we wouldn't be here right now and we would be somewhere different. We would all be living the perfect life. So that's how I'm talking about, like, this is why, you know, things will not always go your way. So it's just better to expect things not going your way. I always tell my guys, I'm like, I operate from a place where I'm like, if things don't go of course, I want them to go my way and I'm going to continue to work towards them going my way. However, if they do not go my way, I'm not going to sit there and stress about it and break and go into a ugly frequency and ugly mentality and more aggressive towards others mentality because I'm more stressed, etc., etc. I will go back and be like, okay, boom, like we're here now, like this happened, like let's just move on and let's breathe and let's take it step by step. You know, there's a lot of things in my life where and it's teaching you lessons as you go, you know, business, sales, your life right now is teaching you lessons as you go, and you have to also learn how to extract those lessons and be like, okay, well, this is what I learned from that. Okay, how am I going to apply it in my future? And this could be, you know, maybe being aggressive towards someone because they do something. How can I better approach this conversation opposed to always, you know, sparking and firing back up, maybe asking the right questions for them to find their own conclusion. And I practice this in my sales presentation too, where like I'm having a conversation with a homeowner and they're telling me, I'm asking them, hey, what are the reasons why you guys are sitting down with me here today? Well, I don't know, like maybe we want to save more on my utility bill or save more money. I'll be like, okay, why would you guys want to save more money for? And like, I don't know, like everybody wants to save more money. No, but there might be a specific reason why you guys would want to save more money. Oh, okay. Well, what makes you think that you guys are not saving money? Well, we are trying to save, and they're like, and I'm not like, that's what I'm talking about, clarity, right? Like a lot of people don't have clarity. They don't even know why they want money sometimes. They don't even know why they want to save money. So you just start asking the right questions where they go into a clear goal of like, well, I want to save more money maybe because my daughter is 14 years old right now. She's going to go off to college in 4 years and I want to be able to support her. And those truly the purpose-driven questions that you find in sales that later you can use throughout your conversation with them that really buys into your product, because they're not buying the product, guys. They're just not buying the product. They're buying the dream. And this goes even to the way that you communicate with yourself. Like you're buying your dream. Like if you're somebody that just wakes up every day and you're like, well, let me go make this money, and that is it, you're limiting yourself. You're limiting your beliefs. You're limiting your output. you're limiting your output tremendously. You got to find why do I want to find money? And a lot of people are, after you ask that question, a lot of people are like, well, for my family. And then when you're like, well, for your family, for who? It's like, oh, my parents. Why your parents? Because they want to see me succeed and they've worked hard. No, like those are still surface level. Like we got to find the deep and deep and deeper and deeper, because that's what's going to drive you to become more, and like your output's going to be greater and your energy is going to be greater. I can do this 7 days a week. Like I can work in my industry, I can make sales, I can do all of these things seven days a week. That doesn't mean I don't need a break. Yeah, like I'll need a break. Like today, thank God I got the opportunity to go to church, have a beautiful day, go grocery shopping, etc., clean my room a little bit, go on a walk, go on a nice dinner. But ideally, I can do this 7 days a week. And the reason why I can do this 7 days a week and I can still come in and it's 10 p.m., 11 p.m. right now, I have this conversation with you guys, is because I know where I'm going. And that goes back to the beginning where I told you guys, like, I know where I'm going. Therefore, I'm driven. There's purpose. There's a lot of energy there because I've asked myself those tough questions of, why do I want money? Okay, why? What else? Okay, what else? And then you start asking yourself, well, why do you wake up every day? Okay, but why really? Like, why do you wake up every day? Because if you're waking up with no reason, you might as well stay asleep. Like, there's a reason behind you opening your eyes every day, and you got to start asking. And that's living with intention. That's living with purpose. That's living with drive. That's living with energy. And then if you learn how to live that energy and ask those questions in these other areas of your life that you're doing, and this could work with like, why am I sleeping in? Like why am I sleeping in? Why do I wake up with no energy? Like, why should I wake up with energy? Why? And then you just start finding more clarity. And I know I'm giving you guys like a lot of like boom, 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 boom in different areas, because this is what's really important, like I can't give you just one idea and then that one idea is going to allow you to reach a more intentional mentality and more clarity, because that's the goal, right? Gaining that clarity for us to understand how can we create more purpose in our lives through doing our best and moving at the best and being impeccable with the person that we are. But ideally, how do we get there? There's no drive. If there's no drive, it's impossible for us to get there. And how do you find more drive? Drive is not something that you go and buy at the store. Drive is already within. The majority of these things that I'm talking about are already within. We want materialistic things. Sometimes we want people to be proud of us, and that's why we do the things that we do. But we got to continue asking ourselves those particular questions that allow us to get there, And I don't know your life. I don't know you. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know. I don't know what's behind the mask, because if you guys really, 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 really want to think about this, you're walking a world where you meet people and you to an extent. You might not have a relationship with you, but there's things that you do that others don't know, right? But what I want you to know is that everybody has things that they do that others don't. So ideally, we're all living alive with a mask on every day, and we're living to everybody else's standards at time, or everybody else's ideas of us. But when do we start living from ourselves and being more authentic and being ourselves? When do we start doing that? A lot of the reasons why, as a lot of college students sometimes, hey, like, why are you going to college for? Oh, my parents want me to go. I want to make my parents proud. But really, like, is that it? Like you're not living your life. You're living the idea of what your parents want you to live your life. What you need to start living your life. And that's really when you start gaining that clarity of like, where am I going? And then you just start to understand yourself better. You start building a relationship with yourself, and you start finding that energy, and you start finding that intuition, and you start making better decisions because you start building that relationship with yourself. And you don't do that by just waking up tomorrow and being like, okay, I'm gonna do it. It takes a day, and then another day, and then a week, and then a month, and then you gotta do it every single freaking day, and not forget about it. Always come back to it, and always ask yourself the questions, and where am I going? And I really understand. Like, I really think that, people don't need medicine or pills to cure depression. They don't need medicine and pills to cure anxiety. And I think that they just need to talk to themselves a lot more. I think that they just need to understand themselves a lot more. I think that they need to understand their mind, their body, their mind, their soul is not in alignment, and it's all over the place, and it's easy to get sick. It's easy to get depressed. It's easy to get sad. It's easy to get upset. It's easy to get angry when they're not in alignment with those type of things. And that's what we're doing here, guys. It's not that one thing where, like, I can give you that key of you go and take it and unlock it tomorrow. It's not gonna happen. So it's constant work, it's constant repetition, it's constant working on yourself to gain that clarity. Now, a lot of the things that I did speak about here, and extracted, it's a couple of my notes from this book that I absolutely love, The Four Agreements, but it's also through, the way that I see this and my perspective of the world through these. And that's what's really important here, guys, because I can't construct your reality. You're going to construct your reality. Everybody's living their own reality. They just don't realize that. So start living yours. Start building yours. Start creating yours. Start Minecrafting yours. That's what I call it now. But anyways, guys, I want to thank you guys for being here and joining us today. I want to let you guys go. Peace.